Welcome. Imagine this. It's Sacramento, 1988. You're walking down F Street. Maybe it's a warm evening. You pass this old Victorian house. Looks a bit worn, maybe, but the garden's tidy. And this is the home of Dorothea Puente. Locally, everyone knows her. She's this kindly older woman, runs a boarding house for people who've sort of fallen through the cracks, the elderly, the vulnerable.
Yeah, it really did look like a safe haven,
Yeah.
a place of compassion.
Yeah.
But what we're diving into today is how that whole image was just a meticulously crafted stage.
Yeah.
Behind that friendly facade, there's this chillingly calculated operation involving fraud, manipulation, and ultimately serial murder.
Right. So our goal here is to really unpack that. How did this house, known for kindness, become a burial ground? And maybe more importantly, how did she fool everyone for so long? Why didn't anyone suspect the sweet old lady?
It's a deeply disturbing question, and what's really striking is how she used the system, used people's assumptions against them. It wasn't just random violence, it was methodical. She weaponized that image of harmlessness.
Okay, let's start at the beginning with how this whole thing was set up. Dorothea Puente, she specifically looked for residents who were, well, difficult placements, people with significant mental health issues, addictions, disabilities.
Exactly. The kind of people that, sadly, society often overlooks. Maybe they didn't have family checking in or friends asking questions. They were isolated.
And that made them vulnerable. One resident was Alvaro Montoya. He had schizophrenia, physical disabilities, a really tough case. His social worker, Judy Mias, she had struggled to find him a place.
And Puente's house seemed like a godsend. Mias placed him there, probably feeling relieved, thinking he was finally somewhere safe, somewhere stable.
But then, just a month later, Montoya is gone, vanished. Judy Mias calls Puente to check in.
And Puente has this story ready. Oh, Alvaro. He suddenly decided to take a trip. Went down to Mexico, she said, to visit some friends. Very spontaneous.
Sounds okay on the surface, maybe. But Mias knew better.
Right. That's the critical moment. Mias knew Montoya's medical details inside out. His condition, his mental state.
Yeah.
There was just no way he could manage a solo trip like that, especially across the border. It simply didn't add up.
So her professional alarm bells are ringing. But you can see the dilemma, can't you? She's got this gut feeling, this strong suspicion, but no actual proof.
And she's dealing with this woman who seems like a pillar of the community, doing good work. Do you report her based on a hunch? Risk damaging her reputation, maybe even closing down a needed facility.
It's tough. She did notify the police, but even then, she kind of hedges her bets, right? Acknowledging he might have just run off?
Yeah, and the police initially treated it cautiously. They go to the house. Puente repeats the Mexico story, probably very convincingly, very sweetly. They're likely thinking, okay, maybe he did just wander off. Missing person case.
Until that one small detail changes everything. As the officers are leaving, one of Puente's tenants, you can imagine him being terrified, he slips a note to one of them.
Passes it over secretly. And that note says, "She makes me lie."
Wow. Talk about a dramatic turn. Suddenly, it's not just a missing person anymore.
Exactly. That little piece of paper blows the whole facade apart. The police immediately switch gears. Now they're thinking possible crime scene.
They start looking around the yard, and it doesn't take long to spot at areas where the soil looks freshly dug up, disturbed.
Obvious signs of recent activity. But here's where Puente's composure is just chilling. The officer asks for permission to dig in the yard.
And what does she do? She doesn't panic. She doesn't object. She apparently smiles, cheerfully agrees, and even offers them shovels.
Incredible, isn't it? Then she goes upstairs, stands on the balcony, and just watches them. Like she's observing some routine gardening work. The confidence is staggering.
So they start digging, and they find something. Bones. Looks like a lower torso, but they're pretty decomposed.
And this leads to a major miscalculation by the police initially. Well, the decomposition suggests the body's been there for a while. They look at Puente, this seemingly frail, older woman, and think, okay, maybe this body is old, maybe from before she lived here. Or she couldn't have done this alone, dismembered and buried someone.
Right, they underestimate her physical capability, or maybe they just can't square the image with the act. They figure this particular body probably isn't Montoya, given the state it's in.
Precisely. They call for forensic backup to identify the remains, but crucially, they don't immediately see Puente as the prime suspect for this particular discovery. They're still partly blinded by that kind old lady persona.
So picture the scene. Police are digging up human remains in her yard, forensic teams are arriving, neighbors are gathering, maybe reporters too. It's becoming chaotic.
And Puente seizes the moment. Pure manipulation. She tells the officer in charge that all this commotion is upsetting her, making her feel faint. She needs to step away, maybe get a cup of coffee down the street to calm down.
And the officer, still likely seeing her as this distressed elderly woman, lets her go.
Lets her walk right out of there. She just calmly leaves the property, supposedly heading for coffee.
But just as she's walking away, the situation back in the garden escalates dramatically.
Yes. The digging continues, and they find a second body.
Oh, wow.
Now they realize this isn't an old, isolated incident.
Yeah.
Something much, much worse is happening here. They immediately try to find Puente.
And she's gone. Vanished. Use the coffee break as her escape.
Absolutely. A manhunt begins. The police have to split their focus, chase down Puente, who's now officially a fugitive and suspected killer, and continue the excavation, which is clearly revealing a mass grave.
And then another resident steps up, someone who saw what was going on.
Yes, someone watching from the crowd comes forward. He tells the police that Puente often paid him to dig holes in the yard.
Paid him to dig holes. What was her explanation?
She told him it was for burying trash and senior waste.
Senior waste? That's horrifyingly cynical. She was literally calling her victims trash.
It's chilling. And it shows how she normalized the activity. Digging in the yard just seemed like part of the house's, somewhat unusual routine. This witness points out the spots where he dug.
And using his directions?
They unearth 5 more bodies, bringing the total count from that garden to 7, including, tragically, the remains of Alvaro Montoya, the man whose disappearance started it all.
So the kindly landlady facade is completely shattered. She's exposed as a serial killer. She fled, but they caught up with her.
They did. She made it to Los Angeles. And incredibly, she didn't really go into hiding. She tried to blend in, even started to befriend another older man.
Trying to find another victim, maybe?
It seems likely. But thankfully, this man recognized her face from the news reports. Her picture was everywhere by then. He called the police, and they arrested her.
And once she was caught, her past started coming out right. This wasn't her first brush with the law.
Not at all. Turns out Dorothea Puente was already a registered felon. She'd done time before for things like theft, forging checks, specifically checks stolen from elderly people she was supposed to be helping or caring for.
So this boarding house scheme was just an escalation of her previous crimes?
Exactly. It was the same pattern, just on a much deadlier scale. The boarding house wasn't just a cover. It was the entire mechanism for her real business.
Yeah.
Systematic fraud.
Let's talk about that financial motive. It wasn't random, was it? She chose these people for a reason.
Absolutely calculated.
Mm-hmm.
She took in vulnerable seniors, homeless individuals, people with disabilities, specifically so she could get access to their Social Security checks, their pensions, any government benefits they receive.
And the killing was part of the business model.
It seemed so. The killing allowed the fraud to continue uninterrupted. Think about it.
Yeah.
She targeted people who often had no family or close friends checking on them. Hard cases, as you said earlier.
So when she killed them?
Their absence might not be noticed for a long time. Meanwhile, she could continue collecting and cashing their checks. The bureaucracy involved in stopping or redirecting those payments can be slow, especially if no one reports the person missing or deceased.
She was exploiting the system's blind spots. She knew these vulnerable people might disappear, and the checks would just keep coming for months, maybe even years.
That seems to have been the core plan. Maximize the isolation of the victim to maximize the duration of the income stream after they were disposed of. It's utterly cold-blooded.
And the deception about her own identity played into this too, didn't it? The whole frail old lady act.
Oh, definitely. When she was arrested, she was actually only 59 years old, but she presented herself as much older, much more fragile.
How did she do that?
She deliberately dyed her hair white, wore these large, thick glasses. She cultivated this image of a harmless grandmother. It was pure theater, designed to make people underestimate her, trust her, maybe even pity her.
A disguise used as a weapon.
Precisely. It likely helped her deflect suspicion, maybe even manipulate officials or police initially. But the forensic evidence, once they started piecing it together, painted a very different, very brutal picture.
What did the forensics reveal about the bodies themselves, beyond just identifying them?
This is where it gets particularly gruesome. All 7 bodies found in the garden had been dismembered. They were missing their heads, their hands, and their feet.
Why? What was the purpose of that?
Purely to obstruct identification. No head means no easy dental record comparison. No hands means no fingerprints. No feet may be harder to estimate height. It was a calculated effort to make it as difficult as possible for police to figure out who these victims were.
But investigators were able to identify most of them, despite that.
They were, remarkably. They had to use other methods, these like medical implants, unique surgical scars, sometimes clothing fragments found with the remains, and where possible, DNA eventually. It was painstaking work, but her attempt to erase their identities ultimately failed.
Was there a final piece of evidence that tied her directly to the murders themselves?
Yes, there was. The toxicology reports on the victims. They found a consistent pattern.
Which was?
All the victims had been heavily sedated before death with the same specific type of potent tranquilizer drug.
Let me guess. A drug she had access to.
Exactly. It turned out that this particular tranquilizer was a medication for which Dorothea Puente, and only she in that house, had a valid, current medical prescription.
So that was the smoking gun, the chemical signature linking her directly to the deaths.
Pretty much undeniable. It proves she wasn't just neglecting them or involved in fraud. She was actively drugging and killing them. She was eventually tried and convicted on 9 counts of murder.
9. But they only found 7 bodies in the garden.
That's right. The prosecution believed, based on other evidence like missing persons reports and financial records tied to former residents, that there were at least 2 other victims whose bodies were never recovered.
Which leads to one of the big lingering questions, doesn't it? How did she physically manage all this? A woman, 59, not particularly large, dismembering and burying 7, possibly more, bodies alone.
It's a huge unanswered question. The sheer physical labor involved is immense. Did she have help? She never admitted it. How did she do it without neighbors noticing more? The digging was explained away as trash, but the dismemberment, where did that happen?
And where are the missing parts? The heads, the hands, the feet, were they ever found?
No, never recovered. That's another dark mystery left behind. Dorothea Puente died in prison in 2011, taking those secrets with her. The full truth of what happened inside that house, only its walls really know.
It's just a chilling reminder, isn't it? How completely appearances can fool us. How something seemingly safe and compassionate on the surface can hide unimaginable darkness.
It really makes you think. We rely so much on trusting certain images. The kind neighbor, the helpful caregiver, the unassuming little old lady. Puente understood that trust and exploited it ruthlessly.
And the cost was devastating.
Consider this final thought. How often do we let a comforting image or just bureaucratic routine blind us to signs that something is wrong? How many others might be targeted precisely because they are forgotten, their absence unlikely to cause an immediate stir? Dorothea Puente didn't just kill people. She preyed on those society had already started to leave behind. That might be the most terrifying lesson of all from F Street.